All right, so in this lesson, I'm going to be talking about the one thing, which is kind of the whole philosophy behind the strategy taught in this course and just the mindset that you should have. So let's get right into it. This is really interesting. So the concept of the one thing is that you can simplify your workflow by just focusing on one thing. So this is kind of where the whole one product store idea comes from. So don't spread yourself thin. Instead, focus on one thing that's working well and just double down on it. Even more than double down, just go all in on it. And so this kind of comes from the 80-20 rules, and that says that 80% of your results come from 20% of your actions. And so that's a good example of that in practice would be if you have a general store. If you have a general store, probably 20% of or less of your products are going to bring all of the sales, right? And so you basically you can focus in on that 20% of your actions that bring in the most results. So you want to find one thing that brings in massive results and then focus all in on that. And so focusing on that one thing allows you to dominate at that one thing versus being mediocre at a bunch of things. And so, I don't know why you wouldn't rather be dominating at one thing versus being mediocre at many things, right? So it makes sense. And so how do you apply this to mindset? Well, first, you don't jump around between different methods. You stop trying to find a miracle method that'll work for you and you focus on just one strategy for at least a year before evaluating the results. And this is really important. So you want to find one strategy that is working, that you know is working, that has worked for other people, and then you focus on just that strategy and you don't spread yourself thin. If you keep jumping around between different methods, in the end, you're not an expert in anything and you basically just wasted your time. And on the contrary, if you dedicate yourself to one strategy, you can become a master and you can truly become an expert and succeed with that strategy. And then you can even start becoming a consultant, becoming all these different types of things for that one thing because you've put so much energy and you've become so good at that one thing. Now, how do you apply this to e-commerce? Well, focusing on just one product or one niche instead of making a general store. And that's the whole idea behind this course. As you saw with the case study of this course, Flex Posture, I was focusing on basically one product. You could say one niche, which is posture correctors, but essentially I was focusing on the one product that was bringing in the majority of the results. And so instead of focusing on testing dozens of new products a week, I found something that was proven to work and I made it work for me. So I created this new brand around it and that's all I focused on. I didn't even have any other stores during that period when I was running Flex Posture. I was focusing just on Flex Posture and making that as successful as possible. And since e-commerce is such a massive market, I don't even know what the total sales online are, but they're massive. The total sales online are insane. And so because of the scale of e-commerce and the worldwide reach that you have, you can do crazy numbers with just one product. You don't need a lot of products. So just pick one product that is proven to work well and dominate it. Now, focusing on one product lets you really dominate that niche versus all the people who are already selling in that niche, but they're spreading their energy across multiple products. So when you start off with this strategy and you pick one product that you're really going to focus on, there's going to be a lot of people who are probably already selling the product, but they're all going to be just general stores and they're going to be putting maybe like a quarter of their energy towards that product. But if you put 100% of your energy towards that product, there's no way you're not going to win, right? As long as you're not stupid. And so focusing on one product lets you dominate that niche. And this is really, really important with the whole strategy for this taught in this course. And so a great example of this is Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola has one product basically, right? They have a bunch of different subsidiaries now, but essentially they have one product, which is sugar water. And so they've been able to build $1 billion business that's consistent year over year, one of the best businesses in the world with just one thing. They focused on one thing. They didn't try to go and start making pizza, They focused on their thing, which is Coca-Cola and good pop, good cola. And they became the best cola company in the world. And so that's why it's really important to focus on one thing, and you can achieve extraordinary things by just focusing in on one thing. And so this is a quote from Gary Keller, who is a very, very successful businessman. He owns a massive real estate company. He's worth like $200 million. And he wrote the book, The One Thing, which is where most of the ideas from this presentation came from. And I would highly recommend that you read that book. But what he says is you need to be doing fewer things for more effect instead of doing more things with side effects. And so this is really interesting. He says do fewer things that have more effect. instead of doing a bunch of different things that have all these different side effects. And this applies to e-commerce as well. So really interesting quote. And if you have the time, I would definitely recommend that you read The One Thing by Gary Keller, because this guy is a genius and his philosophy on life is super interesting.